Part 15. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 141. Chapter 141. Do you feel sorry for me? Next door to Nanjing University, Nanjing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics has an aviation major and is one of the first aviation colleges and universities established in China. Of course, as a key professional institution, its scoreline is also frighteningly high. He hadn't thought about it before, but it's not impossible to think about it now. There are still 2 years left. At worst he will focus on studying. At that point, if you fail the exam, it's not too late to think of other ways. The little girl couldn't escape from his grasp anyway. Luning, let's wait until you pass the exam. Lucian started to have toothache again. I always feel like this girl is hanging a carrot in front of a donkey, and he is the donkey. Early in the morning, Lu Ning found Lucian waiting at the door of her house. Why are you so early? Didn't this person spend his holidays sleeping in the morning and evening, playing games at night and catching up on sleep during the day? Let's take you to school, Lucian said. What are you doing again? Lu Ning stared at him suspiciously. She is not a primary school student, so she needs someone to take her to school. What the can I do? Lucian shrugged. Can you not think about people's minds so complicatedly? I just want to send you to school. By the way, I swear my sovereignty, lest some ignorant people secretly attack this the girl's idea. Lu Ning frowned slightly. Lucian, didn't we agree? You didn't fall in love early in high school, I know. Before the other party could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Lucian. It's good that you know, so you don't have to do this. Picking up your girlfriend to go to school is something that only a boyfriend needs to do. Don't think that she really doesn't know what this guy is thinking. Lucian didn't feel guilty or embarrassed at all after being seen through. Instead, he was confident. You don't want to be misunderstood that you are dating a pretty boy named Song, right? I'm here to help you. Lu Ning glanced at him and said, thank you, but I don't want to be misunderstood. Lucian. That's sloppy. In the preoccupation with declaring sovereignty, I forgot this point. Anyway, I'm already up and there's nothing else to do, so just let me go with you. At worst, I'll get off at the next stop so no one knows we're together. Lucian raised his eyebrows and said road. Lu Ning, it's up to you. She has this guy's legs, so she can't let him go out. Lucian then took out a bag and handed it to her. This is the breakfast I bought for you. Eat it while it's hot. Don't be too moved. Lu Ning recognized the logo on the breakfast bag. Isn't this the most popular breakfast shop at the intersection? That's the one, Lucian said. Remember you said that their soy milk is delicious. But, doesn't that breakfast shop always have a long queue, especially during the morning rush hour? The queue can last for half an hour at a time. There is nothing to do except run out to grab breakfast for the grandchildren early in the morning. Grandpas and aunts, normal office workers and schoolgoers simply can't wait that long, so Uncle Lou will occasionally get up early to buy them. Yes, I went to queue up early today, Lucian said in a tone of begging for praise, which made Lu Ning feel funny and helpless. Actually, you don't have to do this, she said. If you have time, you might as well spend more time reading. Lucian, you feel sorry for me? It's okay. If you really feel sorry for me, just ask me to become a regular employee as soon as possible. Who cares about you? Lu Ning twitched the corner of her mouth. This person would really open a dyeing workshop for him just for 3 points of color. Speaking as if he was treating him as a spare tire. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 142. Chapter 142. You feed me, I feed you. Lucian didn't think so. He felt that although the girl didn't agree to him, it didn't prevent him from fulfilling his obligations as a boyfriend in advance. After the girl got used to his kindness, Dogs outside would naturally not be able to get into her eyes. Okay, don't feel bad if you don't feel bad. No one feels sorry for me since I was a child. I'm used to it. Eat it quickly. I bought this for you at the expense of sleeping in. Even my mother didn't enjoy it. To live with such treatment. God knows how difficult it is for him to get up early, but for this girl, it doesn't seem to be insurmountable. Besides, for her, he was determined to take the China Southern Airlines exam, so buying breakfast was nothing. Lu Ning was angry and funny when she saw how pitiful he made her. However, it was really rare for this guy to get up early and line up to buy breakfast for her. After all, this guy was a big latecomer before. Then he took the breakfast from his hand and said, "Thanks." It was indeed the breakfast I bought after queuing for half an hour. As soon as the bag was opened, the fresh aroma of the steamed buns came out. It is said that the weight of each small cage in this restaurant is strictly controlled, and each one has more than 18 pleats, so that the top does not connect to the top and the bottom does not leak from the bottom. It's white and raw, just like a baby's skin, it will break at a moment's notice. Through the translucent thin skin, you can see the delicious juice rolling inside. Lu Ning couldn't wait to taste one. It was as delicious as she remembered. Then she picked up another one with chopsticks and handed it to Lu Xian's lips and said, "Do you want to try it?" Okay, Lu Xian glanced at her first, then leaned over with a smile, opened his mouth, took it in and bit her chopsticks again. A pair of eyes looked at her with a smile, and there was a hint of amusement in his eyes. Lu Ning then realized that she actually fed him with the chopsticks she had eaten. This guy was clearly teasing her by deliberately biting the chopsticks. Lu Ning's cheeks suddenly felt hot. She was embarrassed and annoyed. She glared at him and said, "Let go." Lu Xian was very obedient. She immediately let go of Song Song. After swallowing the bun in her mouth, she licked her lips and said, "Sweet, one more." Lu Ning. Sweetness is sweetness. What does the word sweet mean when he just says it? Lu Ning felt that her whole cheek was about to burn up, so she put the chopsticks into his hand and said, "You can eat it yourself." Okay, although Lu Xian regretted not being able to eat what this girl fed him, he did not dare to go too far. This girl is really annoyed and she has to be coaxed by herself. So he ate one first, and then put another one to Lu Ning's lips. Seeing that Lu Ning pursed her lips and refused to open her mouth, she couldn't help but urge, "Don't be embarrassed, you fed me just now, now I feed you, this is called reciprocity. Eat it quickly, it won't taste good after a while." Lu Ning didn't want to be polite to him at all. After all, she was not as thick-skinned as he was. She said, "No, you can eat the rest by yourself. I'll just drink the soy milk." Lu Ning felt uncomfortable and embarrassed when she thought of the chopsticks she had just eaten being bitten by the other party in his mouth. They were about to explode on the spot, and they couldn't wait to disappear from the opponent's eyes in a second. Lu Ning felt that she was not thick-skinned enough when he asked her to continue sharing a pair of chopsticks with her. Then he quickly walked to the elevator door and relieved his embarrassment by pressing the elevator button. "You really don't want to eat anymore?" Lu Xian followed her and said slowly, "Are you sure you won't try another bite of such a delicious dumpling?" Lu Ning, "I'm sure, and sure. Can you shut your mouth and stop talking?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is sweet and wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 143. Chapter 143. I can't help but feel a little itchy. Lu Xian saw that the girl's fair cheeks seemed to be stained with two peach blossoms, and even the tips of her ears were pink. She couldn't help but feel a little itchy, but she didn't dare to actually do it. This girl is not the sweet and soft little girl she used to be. If he dares to stretch out his hand, this girl might be able to show her teeth at him. And looking at her like this, I knew that if I continued, this girl might really explode, so I just gave up. Lucien sent the girl to school. As soon as Lu Ning got out of the car, she saw the guy following him slowly. Lu Ning glanced at him and said, "Didn't you say you wanted to get off at the next stop?" Lucien, "Ah. I forgot." Then he pretended to turn around and saw that the bus door had slowly closed in front of the two of them. Lucien looked at Lu Ning's expression and shrugged innocently and helplessly. "Lu Ning. I believe you, you idiot." There was a familiar private car parked in front of the bus. Song Tingzi was getting out of the car. Lu Ning was too lazy to pay attention to the other party and walked directly in the direction of Song Tingzi. He did not forget to say hello to the people in the car. "Uncle Li." Miss Ning Uncle Li responded to her with a smile. He quite likes the step younger lady in his family. She is well behaved, sensible, and polite. Song Tingzi also saw Lucien, who got off the car with Lu Ning. The latter felt his gaze and raised his eyes and smiled at him, but the smile was more like a provocation. Song Tingzi paused, then looked away after a moment, looked at Lu Ning and said, "Go in." Lu Ning turned around, looked at Lucien, who was following him, and said, "Aren't you going back?" Lucien, "I have something to do." Lu Ning looked at him suspiciously. "School is on holiday at this time, what can you do?" Lucien raised his hand and patted her on the head and said, "I really have something to do." He passed her and walked inside first. After walking a few steps, he saw a familiar figure walking out of the guard room, and Lucien walked towards him. Lu Ning recognized the person who came out of the guard room. Wasn't that the former class teacher of class 13? So that guy said something was up, and he was the one who made the date? What he said before about sending her off was just to tease her. This guy was going to come to school. As soon as the class teacher of class 13 saw Lucien, he smiled and said, "The teacher has already contacted the tutoring class you asked the teacher to help you contact. One of the teachers there is my former colleague, and he is very good at teaching students, but the gold medal class teacher there. If you study hard with him, you will definitely make progress." "Thank you, teacher, thank you for your hard work." It turned out that after Lucien failed to ask the other party to help him enter the competition class yesterday, he thought of asking the other party to introduce him to a reliable tutoring class. After all, these days, doing training classes can make more money than being a teacher. Therefore, many teachers who were good at teaching in the school have switched jobs to teach tutoring classes, including the teacher from the former number 1 middle school. As a former colleague, the person the other party knew and introduced must be more reliable than the one he found. Lucien thought that except for his performance, which was inferior to that of the boy named Song, he was inferior to him in other aspects. If he wanted to completely defeat someone, he had to defeat him in what he was best at, so that he would have a sense of accomplishment. The head teacher of class 13 patted him on the shoulder with a pleased expression and said, "As long as you are willing to make progress, study hard, and concentrate on getting good grades, that is the best reward for the teacher. Let's go, the teacher will take you to meet him." End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 144. Chapter 144, Being Likeable. Just as the two were about to leave, Lu Ning and Song Tingzi happened to come over. Lucien raised his eyebrows at Lu Ning. "Look, I didn't lie to you, I really have something to do." Lu Ning ignored him and greeted the class teacher of class 13 next to him respectfully. "Hello, teacher." "Hello," the head teacher of class 13 responded with a smile. Teachers always like well-behaved and smart students, even if they are not in their own class. The two students in front of me happen to be the kind of students that the teacher likes the most. Not only do they have good grades, but they are also very likable in appearance. After the two of them passed by, The head teacher of class 13 patted Lucien on the shoulder and said, "Didn't you say last time that you would be in the same class as a girl and study hard with her? The teacher thinks you are right, don't worry. The teacher will definitely help you get this done." In fact, the class division did not go so smoothly, because the head teacher of the liberal arts key class in the second grade of high school was the devil who didn't like Lucien before. The school's senior high school students are divided into classes evenly based on the final exam scores of the previous semester to ensure a basic balance of students in each class. The two key classes are the same way. Lucien's score in the final exam last semester was enough to enter the key class. As for which of the two classes he would be assigned to, it was just a matter of one sentence. He could still handle this small matter of being the class teacher of class 13 himself. But he didn't want to encounter obstacles from the female devil. The reason was that after the computer randomly assigned classes, Lu Ning happened to be assigned to her class, while Lucien happened to go to another class. When the head teacher of class 13 proposed to exchange Lucien with another student, he met with strong opposition from the other student. In the other party's thoughts and perceptions, Lucien is an unlearned and trouble-making student. Such a person in her class is a shame to her. What's more, who knows where the other party's last test score came from? Although he had been last in the exams a few times before, and suddenly he was admitted to a key class, anyone would doubt the other's performance. What if the other party cheated during the exam? When he was in her class, wouldn't it lower the average score of their class? Taking a step back, even if the other party's last test score is true, who can guarantee that the other party's score will be stable? What if he falls again? Why would she accept a ticking time bomb? Originally, the computer randomly assigned students. If they were assigned to her class, she might have to think of another way to kick them out. Now that they were assigned to another class, she was lucky that it was too late. How could she agree to change them? That is absolutely impossible. The head teacher of class 13 then proposed to move Lu Ning to another class, but was also opposed by the other party. She was second in grade. No, after being divided into classes, the other person was number one in the liberal arts class. She had been paying attention to him this year. The little girl was well behaved and her grades were stable. If she trained her well, she might be able to teach another person. The top scholar in liberal arts is here. When the time comes, as the head teacher of the top student, she will definitely have a share in both bonuses and evaluations. Why would she give up such a good seedling to others? So, the matter was at a stalemate. It was not resolved until school was about to start. Of course, this is something. The class division work has not officially started yet, but the head teacher of class 13 is still full of confidence and feels that he will definitely be able to handle this matter. End of this chapter. The school sweetheart soft green plum is sweet and wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 145. Chapter 145, I chose it all by myself. At this time, Lucien also felt that this was just a small matter. I was confidently preparing to enter the same class as that girl. I even took the initiative to ask the former class teacher to help introduce the remedial class in order not to be kicked out again after being divided into classes. At night, Lu Ning asked why the guy went to school to find his former head teacher. "Oh, I asked the other party to introduce me to a tutoring class," Lucien replied lightly. Lu Ning looked at the other party in surprise. "Didn't you say you want me to study hard?" Lucien said with an expression like "I'm doing this all for you." Lu Ning. "But going to a tutoring class is better than this guy staying at home and playing games online every day." She just couldn't bear to say anything. Jishu and Lu Yu have the same mentality. If their sons are willing to make progress and do good things, they will spend more money. Besides, their family can still afford this amount of money. You can't really expect the brat to rely on his face to make a living in the future. Naturally, I have no opinion on this matter. Not only did Jishu have no objection, in order to reward the brat for his progress, Jishu even doubled his pocket money. After receiving the pocket money, Lucian said to Lu Ning that night, "See, I have money. I will take you out to eat delicious food when you have a rest on the weekend." Competition classes have 1 day off per week. The tutoring classes happen to be the same, with full-day classes from Monday to Saturday and a day off on Sundays. In this way, the summer vacation life of the two began so busy and fulfilling. I don't know whether I am happy or not, anyway, it was the choice of both of them. The training for the competition class lasts for about 40 days in total, while the tutorial classes last until the start of the semester. In general, Lucian worked harder than Lu Ning. The two of them spent almost all of the summer vacation studying, and the first day of school soon came. Everyone looked at the class schedule first. This time among their group of friends, only Lu Ning, Lucian, and Jian Nian were assigned to the key liberal arts class. Shen Yu also chose liberal arts, but this time he passed the exam with more than 200 students in his grade and was assigned to the ordinary liberal arts class. Xu Chang also wanted to choose an article, but his family did not agree and forced him to choose a theory. Chu Nan chose Li voluntarily, and luckily the two of them happened to be in the same class. "Ning Ning, I saw you, you are in class 1 of liberal arts. There are 14 classes in high school, including 6 liberal arts classes and 8 science classes. Among them, Chinese 1, 2, Science 1, and Science 2 are experimental classes, that is, key classes, and the others are parallel classes, ordinary classes. The class placement is ultimately based on the grades at the end of the last semester, so everyone saw Lu Ning's name in the first row of liberal arts experimental class 1 at a glance. The first person in the first row on the science side is Song Tingzi. Jian Nian finally saw her name when she found number 43 from number 1 on the same class list. She hugged Lu Ning happily and said, "Ning Ning, we are in the same class, great." Lu Ning is also very happy. The two of them don't have to separate, and maybe they can continue to be roommates. Lucian was standing behind Lu Ning. He was not in a hurry to look at the class schedule. Anyway, he just wanted to know which class the girl was in. He still trusted the former head teacher's ability to handle affairs, not to mention such a trivial matter as dividing classes. He naturally felt that as long as he knew which class this girl was in, there was no need to bother looking for his name. Of course, he still had to look for it, but he didn't plan to look for it himself. Instead, he looked at Lu Ning and said, "Would you like to help me find out which class I am in?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 146. Chapter 146, Bending Over, Too Tired. Lu Ning turned around and glared at him. "You can't read it yourself, with just a few pieces of paper, would it tire him or what? This guy is obviously addicted to using his own hands." "Lucian, the class list is posted too low, which is suitable for a small person like you. I have to bend down to find it. It's too tiring." Lu Ning. Suddenly for a moment I wondered how this guy could grow so big without being beaten to death. But being angry, Lu Ning still helped him find it. After looking at the first class list, he didn't see the other person's name, so he looked at the second one. "No, you can just look at this one, what else are you looking at?" Seeing this, Lucian couldn't help but poke her arm. He seriously doubted that this girl wasn't careful when searching. Otherwise, how could she not have found her name on the first one? Since the class list is for each class, his name must be on the same class list as that girl. "Lu Ning, you are not on this one." "Impossible, didn't you look carefully?" Look carefully again. Lucian subconsciously felt that this girl must have missed it. Lu Ning said, I can see clearly, but there is nothing there, not to mention, she just looked at them one by one, so it was impossible to miss them. What's more, this guy's name is so familiar to her, even if she glances at it, she won't even notice it. Maybe ignored. But why was this guy so sure and she didn't look carefully? Lucian didn't believe that he was not there, so he simply went to look for it himself. As a result, he searched the same list from front to back and back to front 3 times but still couldn't find his name. As soon as they reached the side, Shen Yu's voice rang out, "Third brother, I found yours. Here, number 32, class 2, liberal arts." "Which class did you just talk about?" Lucian turned his head and looked over in disbelief. The other person's voice was like a bolt from the blue to him. "Class 2. Here, Lucian, isn't this you?" Shen Yu pointed at the name on the class list and looked at him. For a moment, Lucian felt that his mind was a little unable to move. He looked at the name at the top of class 1, and then at the position of Shen Yu's finger. I don't know what exactly went wrong. The former head teacher obviously promised to put him and the little girl in the same class, but now one of them is in class 1 and the other is in class 2. What's going on? Lucian immediately turned around and walked towards the office. "Third brother, where are you going?" everyone couldn't help but ask when they saw his appearance. Lucian, however, did not look back or answer the other party's questions. What's wrong with third brother? Everyone was left looking at each other. Class 2 is a key class. Why does the third brother look like he is not happy at all? Chu Nan glanced in Lu Ning's direction and said, "Maybe it's because I wasn't assigned to the ideal class." Statement: isn't class 2 a key class? What's not ideal? Chun Nan looked at the other person as if he was looking at a fool. Lu Ning also felt that Lucian's reaction was not right. It was as if he was sure that he would be assigned to class 1, but it turned out that he was not. I'll go see him in the end. He still felt uneasy and chased after him. Office of the sophomore group. The head teacher of class 13 looked at him with a face of shame and said, "Classmate Qian, I'm sorry, but the teacher failed to do what he promised you." "Can I know the reason?" Lucian asked with a frown. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 147. Chapter 147. I don't like him. It is not difficult to divide students into classes according to reason. Although it is assigned by computer, there is still a lot of room for human manipulation. Besides, he didn't want to be transferred from the parallel class to the experimental class. In the final analysis, it was just a matter of one sentence, and the school would not deny him any kindness. However, he and the girl were separated. With a 50/50 probability, plus the help promised by the former head teacher, something unexpected happened. What's more, the look of the former head teacher didn't seem like he didn't help, but rather like he didn't help. Lucian wanted to know which step caused the problem. This. Because it is the office of the second grade group, teachers from other classes are also here. Among them is the current head teacher of class 1 in the second year of high school and the former devil of class 11. It is not easy to say bad things about others in front of them. What's more, it would be a bit hurtful to tell them the truth that the class teacher of class 1 is not willing to hire him. Finally, this child is willing to study hard and make progress. What if your self-esteem is hurt and you start to give up on yourself again? Teachers are naturally more willing to lead students on the right path. How can we watch children go astray and backtrack? So after hesitating for a moment, he said, "It's all the teacher's fault. I forgot to tell the teacher about this matter. You see, now that the list has come out, it is not good to change classes. Otherwise, you still just stay in class 2. It's a key class anyway, and there are good talents in it. The teachers in both classes are the same, so it doesn't matter who you study with. How could it be the same? His goal from the beginning was very clear. He wanted to be in the same class as that girl, otherwise he would not give up science and choose liberal arts. If the other party has forgotten, he doesn't believe it. Obviously not long ago, he specifically called the other party to confirm, and the other party also promised himself that he would definitely handle the matter. What's more, even if he forgot at first, he should have remembered it before the list was posted. Lucien didn't say anything, just looked at him. On the other hand, the former head teacher felt guilty and felt very sorry for the child. As a teacher, it was his fault that he could not keep his word. He was not a qualified and good teacher and betrayed the trust of the students. It was the female devil who took the initiative to stand up and said, "Okay, you don't have to be shy, just tell him the reason directly. I am the class teacher of Liberal Arts Class 1, and I don't want you to come to our class." When the head teacher of Class 13, now Liberal Arts Class 6, heard this, he immediately became anxious and hurriedly stopped him. "Oh, Teacher Yin, what are you talking about in front of children?" Then he turned to Lucien and said, "No, Teacher Yin is joking with you. In the eyes of our teachers, every student is the same. And Class 2 is also a key class. As long as you take classes well, you will be good in the future. Teacher believes in you. Students of this age are entering puberty and developing physically and mentally. They have strong self-esteem. If they can't think clearly, they will get into trouble and easily go astray." The female devil's surname is Yin, and her name is Yin Hanmei. Yin Hanmei looked at him with obvious displeasure. To be precise, it should be disdain. Lucien is not a fool. After the scene just now, he naturally knows that the problem lies with the class teacher of Class 1. The other party has made it clear that he looks down upon himself and is unwilling to have him. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 148. Chapter 148 disgust is clear. However, the female devil didn't think there was anything wrong with what she said. In her opinion, these students did not study hard precisely because they were thick-skinned, had no self-esteem, and had no ambition. If you can wake them up by scolding them for this, you will have done a good thing. So regardless of the former head teacher's attempt to smooth things over, he looked at Lucien and said in a sharper and more rude tone, "Don't blame me for looking down on you. You must know what you were like before, and so will the teachers in our school." "I don't think so. Maybe I have to have a student in my class who is disobedient and gets into trouble all day long. Others come here to study well, especially students who are assigned to key classes. Privately, everyone has worked hard to achieve their current results. There is no way I would let a mouse spoil the whole pot of porridge in my class. Although your scores in the final exam this time are indeed good, looking at your scores in the entire first year of high school, this is probably the only time you have such a high score, right? I'm not here to question how you got your score, but I won't and can't want a student like you, so it's useless to intercede." The other party's words can be said to have made Lucien worthless, and his dislike was obvious. Raoxi's former head teacher couldn't help showing an angry look after hearing the other party's words. "Teacher Yin, you are a role model, how can you say that to a student?" Although Lucien did something wrong before, the child has changed after all. Yes, we teachers should be more tolerant to our students. How can we keep holding on to our past mistakes? And what you just said is too much. The latter didn't take it seriously. He looked in the direction of Lucien and snorted coldly, "Did I say something wrong? On the contrary, Teacher Wu, since you think so highly of him, you might as well let him go to your class. Anyway, with his ability I am afraid that after passing the first monthly exam, I will be kicked out of the experimental class. I will have to go to the parallel class sooner or later. It is better to go directly now to avoid lowering the average score of our experimental class." The class is full of students like him. Lucian didn't say a word from beginning to end. He was not angry at being so despised, but in the final analysis, people just looked down on him, and no matter what he said, it was tantamount to insulting himself. It's just making yourself more embarrassed. At this moment, I heard a sweet but firm voice saying, "Teacher, I think what you said is wrong. Without investigation, you have no right to speak. Have you ever understood the student in front of you? Do you know what kind of efforts he has made for this placement test? You know nothing and have not investigated. To judge a person based solely on subjective impressions is to be biased and unfair to students." Yin Hanmi, I naturally knew the girl who suddenly broke into the office, and she was a student she liked. Seeing that she accused her in public, her face suddenly turned ugly and said, "Classmate Luning, why are you talking to the teacher?" Luning bent down and saluted the other person, then stood up, looked at the other person calmly and said, "I'm sorry, I don't mean to disrespect you, but I think teaching ability is very important to be a teacher, but a teacher's morality is equally important." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 149. Chapter 149, Her eyes and heart are all about her. Morality comes first in everything, she said. I think teachers' ethics should be placed before teaching level. As a teacher, we should not only teach us knowledge, but also teach us correct values and outlook on life. Learning is very important, but it is not the only criterion for measuring and evaluating a person. Yin Swame snorted coldly and said, "You are students. If you don't need to study, what should you use to measure it? Your only goal in entering school is to study hard. Yes, we should study hard, there is nothing wrong with that, but as a teacher, shouldn't you also treat every student fairly and fairly?" Lucian didn't say a word at this time, his heart was full of eyes, only the image of the little girl fighting for her was left. The anger that filled him was miraculously healed the moment she appeared. Being contradicted again and again made Yin Swame extremely angry. He glared at her and said, "Why am I being unfair to him? What kind of student is he? Does he need me to investigate specifically? The school, who doesn't know? And what's going on with you, a student? Don't think that because you have good grades, you don't take the teacher seriously. What kind of person will such students become when they are together? The teacher is very disappointed in you." "I'm sorry to disappoint you, teacher. I also feel that besides studying, I also need to improve in other areas. It can be seen that studying alone is not enough, isn't it?" "You." Yin Swame was so angry that she couldn't speak. She pointed at her and said, "You, how dare you talk to me like this? Do you know that I will be your class teacher next?" Luning blinked and said with an innocent expression, "So, are you going to retaliate against me?" Yin Swame's face turned dark again. As a teacher, naturally she couldn't explicitly say that she would retaliate against her, otherwise the students would file a lawsuit with the Education Bureau, which would be detrimental to her. So she almost gritted her teeth and said, "Of course not. As for what she would do in private, naturally only she would know. Since the other party is assigned to his class, he can always find an opportunity to express this tone." Since Luning offended the other party, she no longer planned to stay in the other party's class. She turned to Wu Hong, the former class teacher of class 13, and said, "Teacher Wu, can students request to change classes?" Wu Hong glanced secretly in Yin Hanmi's direction and said, "Well, in principle, you cannot change classes after being divided into classes. Since it is in principle, it means there is still room for maneuver. Luning, what should I do?" The latter cleared his voice and said, although in principle it is not possible to change classes, if the student himself strongly requests it and the parents agree, the school will still allow it out of consideration for the student. As long as the student himself applies, and wants to, if the class teacher is willing to accept it, then there will be no problem. Luning: okay, then I'll apply to be transferred to class 2. I wonder who the teacher of class 2 is. Wu Hong: well, the class teacher of class 2 is out for something and may not come back until later, but I think it's student Lu and you should be fine. As for what the other party said to teacher Yin just now, it was reasonable and well-founded, and he said everything he wanted to say. It's so enjoyable. It's a pity that I don't take the key class, and I deny that I must take the other person into my class. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 150. Chapter 150. So you really want to be with me? Then I will go back and write the application now. Teacher, please help me tell the teacher of class 2 first. If the teacher of class 2 does not agree, can I apply to be transferred to your class? Lu Ning's voice was soft and her face was well behaved, as if she was not the one who contradicted the teacher just now. Of course, Wu Hong looked delighted, but he also knew that letting the other person go to his class would delay the other person. After all, there are still certain differences in educational resources between parallel classes and experimental classes, and the learning environment and atmosphere are also different. As a teacher, you naturally want your students to have a better future. He said, don't worry, the teacher will try his best to help you talk to the class teacher of class 2. What do you mean? Yin Swimei glared at Lu Ning with a sullen expression. Especially when she heard that the other party actually wanted to apply for a shift change, she was almost going crazy. Lu Ning smiled slightly at the other party and said, as a teacher, you have the right to criticize and reject students. As a student, I think you should also have the right to choose the teacher you like. I think your educational philosophy is not in line with mine, and you may not be suitable to be my teacher, so I applied to be transferred to another class. I think you won't like students like me. Teacher, you will be happy if I transfer to another class. You. Yin Swimei was once again so angry that she vomited blood. This girl was clearly hitting her in the face on purpose. It was strange that she could be happy. Lu Ning did not look at him, but bowed to Wu Hong, then looked at Lu Xian and said, let's go. Coming out of the office, Lu Xian's expression was surprisingly calm, at least there was no emotion at all on his face. The other person glanced at Lu Ning, raised his eyebrows and said, so you really want to be with me? Lu Ning, don't you want to be in the same class with me? I don't know who went to the teacher to put him in the same class with her, but he was humiliated. Who said that? Lu Xian naturally wanted to deny it. That's it? I misunderstood. How about this? I go back to the teacher and say I won't change. Lu Ning gestured to turn around. Lu Xian hurriedly grabbed her and said, I've already changed it. How troublesome it is for you to ask for it to be changed back now. And that female devil in class 1 is not a good person at first glance, she is snobbish. Are you willing to teach under such a person? Besides, wouldn't it be nice if we were in the same class? It would make it easier for you to supervise me, wouldn't it? Haha, I don't think so. Although the other party is a bit snobbish, who makes me a good student in the other party's eyes? The treatment must be different from a poor student like you who has no merit in the other party's eyes except for his face. Maybe he will treat me even better. After all, you're pointing to me to earn honor for her, right? You offended her so badly just now, it would be nice if she didn't let you wear small shoes. Lu Xian ruthlessly broke her fantasy. Humph, doesn't she just look down on me? Sooner or later, let her see him with my strength. I regret giving up such a good seedling like me today. Yudao is a person who fights for a breath, and a Buddha fights for a stick of incense. Just because the other party looks down on him today, he must also study hard and use his strength in the future. Slap the other person in the face. Looning, okay, since you are so ambitious, I decided to stay and supervise you. But, aren't you angry that she said that to you? Lucian, I'm so angry. I'm so angry, but when he saw this girl speaking for him, he suddenly lost his anger. End of this chapter.